Hi everyone, it's Q Farm Gray. It's QTalk Live and it's Friday from sunny Ohio. It is actually sunny today. Gee, I'm excited because when we're all done here, I get to go on a hike again, but in the sun, not in the rain. So it's Friday, it's Pajama Friday, and apparently it is also Hat Day, as you can see. My girlfriend pointed out that I didn't wear my Hello Kitty hat to go with my Hello Kitty slippers. Look at that. And yeah, those are pajamas. So Andy said to me today as I was getting out of bed, you look like you just rolled out of bed. That those pajamas are incredibly wrinkly. I said, well, isn't that what this is? Isn't that what we're doing here? Is we're having a pajama Friday. So, and no, I wasn't going to shower because I'm going to go take a hike today sometime soon or later. And so, why? And besides, I have this cute cap to put on and show you guys. See, my love for Hello Kitty continues. Apparently, like I said, my friends like to give it to me. So today, what are we doing? We are doing the Umbra ring, as you can see. And some of you guys were able to pick up some kits. And so if you did not pick up a kit for the Ember Ring, I do have some more, and starting sometime in the middle of next week, it'll be shipped out. But if you're interested in getting a kit, definitely reach out to us. I no longer have the aquamarine uh, stones, but I do have some beautiful tourmaline. But this is going to be another $100 upcharge because this is gem grade. It's amazing, and but it'll be the same price for the amethyst, and this is a Sleeping Beauty turquoise doublet. So if you are interested, you can definitely reach out to me directly and we will get you a kit. It's going to be first come first serve because there's not that many stones left and not many kits available. I brought in a little bit more material this week. So there is a new kit available for next Friday for uh, the molecular pendant, totally molecular, and that will ship out tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, it is on the website. I do have the links here in the description. So if you're looking for that. Going forward, just to let you guys know, every Friday I'm going to do a little bit more of a complex project like I am today. This is going to be the first one, and there will be kits available for those. And so I woke up this morning thinking, what would be really cool is if we do something completely different. People have been asking me for a stone setting, but I'm like, there's all kinds of stone settings. So I'm going to do a couple reverse stone settings where you're going to set it from the back side. I thought that might be a lot of fun. And I have some material. I'm working on the project now, and I'll have that posted soon. I'll work on it through the weekend. So, check in from time to time. I might go live just for fun, just so you can see what I'm doing on my workbench. You never know what's happening there. So if you let's see, so the schedule is being posted on the QTalk page. Projects are being posted there if you want to look forward into the future to see what is going on. I see Sally's question there. Yes, you can still get the molecular kit. Like I said, they'll start shipping out tomorrow, and you'll have it for next Friday, definitely. There's actually quite a few kits still available if you want to get that kit. Okay. So the ring, what are we doing? We're doing today the Umbra ring. If you guys looked it up, it means shadow, right? Umbra. So that's where I came up with that. You should have the following things on hand if you want to make it and did not get the kit. So you'll need, here, I'll hold this up for you. You'll need 3 by 1.5 rectangle wire. That's what this rim is, and that's what the shank is. Do you have to use 3 by 1.5 millimeter? No, you can go a little bit heavier and you can go a little bit lighter. It's just something that is sort of basic in my arsenal. I always seem to have it. I just like it a lot, but you can definitely go 4 by 1.5 millimeter or 4 by 1, but I think 1 is a little thin, but you can definitely go thicker, go to the 2 millimeter. 3 I think is a minimum. You can I wouldn't go to like 2 millimeter because I think that's too thin. As far as the ring shank, you can use any ring shank you want. A note regarding wire: when you're buying this kind of wire, it does not go by gauge. So remember, it's always by dimension. So whatever dimension you're looking for, that's what your or dimension you want, that's what you're going to go by. You don't want to look up the gauges on this because you're not ever going to find it. Okay, so Andy told me that to tell you guys that he changed the inventory on molecular, so you can still purchase it if you had checked earlier and it said that it was sold out. Okay. The other thing is the stone in this one is a 9 millimeter cushion cut aquamarine. You can definitely use round, you can definitely use oval. I'm going to show you an oval today and this cushion cut. You will need 18 gauge wire. That's what I'm using for the prongs. I would not use fine silver. I would use sterling silver because it's a little bit harder. It's not so soft and I don't worry about it coming apart. The base on this is 24 gauge or 26 gauge disc, or you can just do a sheet metal and cut it out yourself. So if you're doing a shape, or if you can buy a shape, you can buy a square disc if you wanted to, you can buy an oval disc if you wanted to. It's going to depend a little bit on the size of your stone, because you want this, for this design, you want this nice void around it, you see. So you don't want it to take up the whole thing, because in the end it sort of becomes like a bezel set. So what's the point, right? What else do you need here? Of course, solder. Okay. For the tools, I'm going to move the camera and show you the tools. Wait, I'm going to put it on an apron first, because I realized the other day that there was plenty of crotch shots, and this is going to avoid crotch shots. And I'm putting on my tool whore apron. I know many of you guys have one. Send me a picture. Show me your fashion today. If you don't have a tool whore apron, we have them on the website also, and also provided a link here. Put them on sale this week for $10. If you're interested, throw it in on your order. Gosh, I feel like Home Shopping Network. But anyway, okay, so here comes the tools that we have. All these tools also are available on our website, and the links are in the description. Okay, so we have a chasing hammer, a ring mandrel. You'll need a steel ring mandrel. If you have an aluminum one, at some point you're going to want to upgrade to this. Okay, a file. These are student files. They're great for what we're doing. It's a workhorse. Okay, and then oops, why can't I figure this out? Okay, a mallet, rawhide mallet. I've been using this little mini baby mallet. It's so cute. It's an inch, and a lot of people have been asking us for it, so I've put it on the website for special order. If you want it, we can get it to you by next week sometime. In any case, so these are great for little projects, but you will need a leather mallet and a bench block. You definitely need a center punch today. You'll need some sort of a surface to drill onto. Now this is a wood wedge that I'm going to use for the steel mandrel to make the ring with, but I'm also going to use the backside to drill onto, so that I'm not drilling into my table. But heck, I'm working on ceramic right now, so that's not a good thing. So you'll probably want a ruler, and ruler, a center finder will be helpful, and a ring sizer is potentially useful there. And I'm also going to use pumice today. So all these things are available. Andy, I'm sorry, there was a question. T-shirts are also on the website. What we have left is listed there, so have a look. Okay, so that's all of the all the tools that you need and all the materials that you need. So the first lesson is going to be about ring sizing and what you need to do for the ring size. We all sort of know our ring size. However, what we don't know is the consistency of our mandrel, right? So that's what's sort of hard, okay? That said, first thing you always want to do is with your mandrel and your sizer, determine what size you are and always retrofit the sizer to the mandrel because these don't always match up. So whatever size this is of your ring sizer, that's a size you're going for. So if this is, say, an 8, and on here, actually, on my mandrel here, it says it's 7.5. So you want to go what's the final size is going to be worked on the mandrel. So make sure you retrofit and not assume. Okay. So again, here the problem is that you don't know who manufactured the ring sizer and who manufactured the ring mandrel, because those might be two different people and there's always some sort of variable. Okay, so make sure that you pay attention to that. Always retrofit it. So that's your first lesson. Okay, so for the ring, I'm going to go take this off. Hold on. So for the ring, first thing you're going to do is you're going to make the ring shank. Okay, so it's easy. You want to take your wire, you find your size on here. If you're an 8, I would start at 6. I know you guys probably can't see that, but let me move things around. So I'm starting at 6 because it's easier to move it up a size than to move it down a size, okay? But I always start small and then move it over. If you can bend it with your hands, by all means, bend it with your hands. I'm using copper today because you guys know I'm cheap and I already have a ring. See, I don't need another one. Move it like so. And if you can't move from one end or the other, just switch it around. Okay, I'm going to move this around like so. So I want to thank everybody for sharing this post. And please, if you would take a minute and just share future posts and whatnot, I'd really appreciate that support. It helps get the word out. Okay, so see, I'm here. I'm just going to go bypass it. And see, I started at 6 and I'm already at about 6.5. So I'm going to push it down. So what's nice about doing it this way is it helps the wire conform to the mandrel. So I'm going to push it down. I'm at 7.5 and I'm going to bend this over. And as I'm working it, it's working down to size anyway. See that? So now I'm down at my 8. Okay, and you can see how nice and tight I am around the mandrel. Okay, so you can do one of two things here. You can mark it or you can eyeball it for your cut. Depending on how good of a cutter you are, not how good the cutter is, but how well you know how to cut, you might give yourself a little bit of room for a margin for error. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for something like this, you'll want a nice heavy-duty cutter. Andy, can you add a link for that? So then we're going to go right in here and just cut right at that line. Be careful not to cut into your other side. So we're going to pull this back and cut. So love these cutters. I know a whole bunch of you guys have these from class. They're so cool because they cut right through these heavy gauges. If you don't have a heavy duty cutter, do not use your Lindstroms. They're not heavy enough unless you bought the heavy duty Lindstrom. You're going to break it. And you know, honestly, I did. I broke one and I took it over to the Lindstrom booth at Bead Fest a year ago, and I said, "Hey, look, they broke." And the guy said, what gauge were you cutting?" And then I told him, and he goes, "Well, of course they broke." But they were so kind to me because they felt so strongly about the fact that I was a teacher using their product that they actually replaced it for me. Anyway, so you want to make sure that your cut is nice and straight. My cut is not, so I'm going to trim this side too. And if, again, you're not a good cutter, you'll either have to saw this, or you don't have a cutter, you'll have to either saw it or file it down. And so now I'm going to move it. If this gets hard on you, then do use, I do anneal the metal, okay? Putting the glasses on, and I'm just going to move it back and forth. Can you see that? Hoping it focuses here. Not wanting to focus. Okay, so here, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, put it in here. You see it's slightly off. You can sit here and just play with it like a jump ring, or what I like to do is I like to put it into my pliers. And I put the opening right into the middle of the pliers and I squeeze on it. And see, it brings it down. See that? So it brought that down nicely, but there's gaps inside from the cut. I did not cut that particularly well. That's okay. I'm going to pull it out, and this is where filing comes in. So we're going to file this. And notice how I'm bracing my hand. I'm not holding it in the air and doing this. Okay? So you need that leverage. Okay. Nice and flush, and take the other side. These heavy-duty cutters are nice because they are flush cutters. Mine aren't, because when I bought them I did not know that they came as flush, but we only sell the flush ones, so that's a good thing for you guys if you buy them, because really it's only $2 more pay for the flush ones. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm checking for that gap to make sure that there's no gaps inside. There's a slight gap, so I'm going to file that a little bit more. So you want both the outside and the inside to be completely flush. And this doesn't matter for the ring shank, but it will matter for the trim on top. Because if it's not together, you're going to have an imperfection. You'll always see the seam. So you want to make sure that it's perfect, okay? So again, we're going to move this. And this has gotten hard. So I'm going to anneal it. Torch. This is a bowl of pumice, which is nice because there's no heat sink, and actually the heat is reflective, which makes it a little hotter faster. Okay, so that's annealed. And again, I have a little pitch on the inside. I'm going to put it right into my chain nose here, and I'm going to move it. There we go. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you're working this, that the sides are even and the top is even. And you see, you want it to come together. If it's torqued, you got to move it back, okay? So just play with that a little bit, but you want a perfect joint. Take your time on this. A lot of people complain, "Oh my gosh, it's taking forever." You know what? It's going to take forever when you first start out, but that's what starting out is about. Then you'll gain the experience and you'll understand what it takes to get it there. And my first ring took more than a day, so go with that. Okay, so now that's all together, and then we're gonna solder the that joint. I'm sorry, Andy. Okay. if you want a pair of those heavy duty cutters, we'll add the link after we're done here. So I'm going to put a little bit of solder. Now, do you want to put the solder on the inside of the seam or on the outside of the seam? On this particular one, because it's a ring shank and it's sitting underneath, it doesn't really matter. Whatever makes you happy, okay? Yes, I'm using solder paste, but remember, even though you're using solder paste, you don't have to smear it around like peanut butter. I just put it on one edge and I ask it to flow all the way through. Heat the whole thing. If you're using silver, you're going to use hard solder here. Again, I'm just demoing in copper because I already made a silver ring. Right? Okay, heat the whole thing, heat the joint until it flows, and once it comes through, voila, you're done. Quench that puppy. Yep. Should have done it. Okay. Dry it off. Pickle it if you want to, or put it back on the mandrel. So I'm going to put it back on the mandrel, and you can see there's gaps. Okay. So make sure that you work those gaps out. So I'm looking down. My eyes are going this way. So every time you see me do this, I'm looking down the mandrel to look for those gaps. And then you want to make sure that you flip this ring over, okay, so that it keeps this cylindrical and it's not turned into a cone on you. And okay, so you can see all my gaps are gone. Okay, nice. So then you'll do it again for the top part. All right. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do an oval, just to make this a little bit more interesting for you guys, because I already showed you how to do a circle, so that's easy. So now we're going to do an oval. I have an oval cabochon, and I had a template, so to make my oval a little bit bigger than my cabochon. Okay. So then to make an oval, what I do is I find a dowel rod that has a similar shape to my oval, and I start with that. Ooh, this wire is really hard, so I'm going to anneal it. Okay, so annealing again is just heating your metal to open up those molecules to make it more malleable. Okay, how long do you heat it for? I like to heat it till I start seeing color changes, but I don't like to heat it to red. Another trick is you can mark a Sharpie on there, and when the Sharpie disappears, that's when you know you've annealed. Old trick. Okay, so again, this is about the shape. So see how easy that is? It's all of a sudden bending. So nice. And then I'm going to try to match that up. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to estimate the other one, the other bend. Like so. And I'm just going to keep putting it back on. Ooh, wow, look at that. Okay. And I got my cutter. I'm going to trim this a little long because I don't like my cut on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it long. So if you haven't purchased a kit, you can still get a kit, this Umbra kit, but I don't have any aquamarine left. I just have amethyst, a turquoise doublet, and for a very large upcharge for the green tourmaline. Just reach out to us. It's going to be first come, first serve, so you can make a note here. If you want to comment that you want one, you can comment here. Andy will make a note. I've decided that I've decided that Andy is definitely my producer and part of this team to make this happen. So hi to Andy, everyone. Okay, so I'm just matching it up to the oval. Okay, and it doesn't, it doesn't have to be perfect to this shape, because if you're doing it on a sheet, you can always trim it back down. Okay, so I want it a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to file again on the inside of this just a little bit, just so I can get a nice, perfect join. Notice how I'm bracing my hand on the table and not just doing it up in the air. They call that air filing. The stones that are available again. Here we are. And if you want to message me, I can shoot over a picture that's better than here, because I know that the picture quality here is a little bit challenged. Okay, so again, I'm working this joint together. Oh, hey, it's focusing if I do that. So here, let's see, will it focus? It focused. Okay, so there's your colors. Okay, so I'm moving that joint together perfectly. And we're just going to work that. And again, if you have the kit, you're making a circle, okay, to go to fit over the disc that was provided for you in the kit. But I wanted to do this oval so that you guys have an idea of how to do it if you decide to deviate from the design. Yes, the green tourmaline is gem grade. It is a turquoise doublet. I'm getting questions on the stone. It's a turquoise doublet, which means it's turquoise on the bottom and it is crystal quartz on top, and that's how you're throwing that blue color. Okay, so we're going to heat this whole thing. And the joint, right? Here again, you'll be using hard solder if you're doing silver. And just get that to come all the way through. And there we go. Okay. Okay. And there it is. So now, the shape isn't great, right? So I'm just going to fix that. I'm going to take out whatever I have, pliers or whatever, and I'm going to shape it a little bit and even it up. So if you want to do something funky, like you can cut a square and then do, you can cut a square and then do a round inside of a square would be fun. You know, square inside of a square is nice. But it's always fun to just sort of play with shapes. And I don't know why I'm being so anal retentive about this, but there it is. Okay, so now you'll take out some sandpaper for your ring, both the ring shank and your rim. You want to sand it. So we'll start with 400 because you're going to be sitting here forever if you do anything less, okay? And I make sure, especially for this rim, I want it to be clean, clean, clean. I don't want to see a gap or joint here at all. I don't want to see it on the side either. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to sand it until it is all gone. If it is really bad, go ahead and take out your file and file that down and then go sanding just to get the edge nice and smooth. Next thing is you want to make sure that the rim lays flat to your metal. I can tell you right now this piece of metal is not flat, so we'll flatten that. Okay. Oh, you guys are asking for somebody was asking to see this ring. So this is a wraparound. Actually, no, this was used with 3 by 1 millimeter flat wire. Okay, and I have different color sapphires tube set into it. Okay. So I'm going to flatten this piece out. And I'm using a texture so that I have texture on the inside of the ring, just for fun. And honestly, because I had a piece of scrap here too. So some of you guys did get some texture on your discs. Okay, so here I'm going to solder this down. Actually, before I solder it down, I'm going to go ahead and trim this a little bit. Let's see. I am going to retrace this down so I have a guide. Because my shape wasn't perfect to what I had started with. Okay. So the reason why I'm doing this is because we need to measure the stone. Okay. So you want to find the middle of this disc. So I'm going to take out my center finder and I'm going to put this right in the middle, and I can see my my tracing underneath this piece, and here, because there's a hole in it, I can find the center. Okay, so there's my center, and from the center I can go ahead and mark out so I can figure out my quadrants. Okay. For your round disc, and I already lost my round disc, let me grab another one. For the round disc, again, you'll do the same thing. Okay? You'll find the center by placing it here. And then another thing that's nice and handy about this disc finder is you'll put this back on top, or not this finder, center finder. And you see, this is on top of the center finder. You can mark your quadrants. It makes life a little bit easier, like so. Okay? So you can mark your quadrants. Oops. And so you guys following along? Any questions out there? Okay. And you're going to take your stone, and this will help you find the center of that stone. Do you see that? So, okay, so here you need to decide where you want your prongs, okay? I think it's fun to put it on the sides and not on the corners, and it's also easier. So I'm going to mark just like that on the outside of my stone. And I'm not going to get too crazy about putting it right up against the stone because you do need that room. So you need like 1/2 millimeter outside of that stone. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here for my oval. So this is a 2-part class. We're going to get through most of it today, and then I'm going to finish it up on Monday. So if you have questions, you do want to write it down and let me know. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to go here, here. I'm going to go from the sides, or the, I guess, do you call those corners? I don't know. It's an oval. You guys see what I'm doing here? Okay. So instead of going just directly on the halves, I'm going sort of the diagonal. Okay. And I'm not completely clear. You can see that. There we go. Okay. And then Actually, now that I'm doing that, let's put this back on and you can see how I did that one. Does that make sense? Because that's where all the prongs are going to go. Okay. So then here, next up, I'm going to center punch where those dots are, and then I'm going to drill a hole. I want to do it now instead of after I solder the ring on, because it's just a little bit more cumbersome to do it after. So I'm just going to do it now. But you can definitely do it after. I just found it easier. Oops. I actually did it after I soldered the rim on and decided it was, it's so much easier if I did it ahead of time. Okay. So with a center punch on my dots and a chasing hammer, we're going to go like so. Don't get too crazy with the center punching, meaning you don't want to go all the way through your metal. I've seen that, and it creates a really funky hole. So I'm going to do it in here too. You'll need some cut lube, and you'll need a 1mm drill bit. It was in your kits. If you had purchased one, they're really small, so be careful not to lose those. Okay. You'll need a surface here to drill on. If you don't have any scrap wood, believe it or not, you can go to Home Depot. They have scrap wood all over the place. You can get them to give you some. Just actually go to the back of the lumber department. There's always a trash can back there of scrap wood. They're more than happy to give it to you. Okay. I have to move here. Hold on. Okay, so here we're gonna, can you guys see that? That's a teeny weeny little drill bit. We're gonna cut loop that a little bit, and going straight up and down into the metal, not from the side like this. Okay, you need that hole to be straight up and down, and we're gonna just drill that. Yes, it is important to center punch that, or else your drill bit's going to glide all over the place. That center punch helps direct the drill bit. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. There's 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna do the same here. Why did you guys get 2 discs in your kit? Just in case you mess this one up. I'm not worried about everyone melting their disc. I'm more worried about how you're drilling this. Okay, so now that's drilled, we can start soldering again. Okay, so here, actually I'm going to trim this piece down just a little bit because it'll make soldering a little bit easier and there's no heat sink. You'll need some shears if you don't have a disc already cut. So again, I'm doing this so that you can see that you have options. Because I just trimmed that, I warped it, so we'll flatten it out. Okay, let's see. Yep. And make sure it's flat. Alright. So now we're going to put some solder paste on there. Use whatever solder you want though. Okay. At this point, oops, I need to pickle this. So we're going to throw everything in the pickle. And switch out for the tripod. Okay, so while it's pickling, I'm going to switch out. And hopefully not make too much of a mess here. Okay, so we have to switch out for the tripod, which means I'll be torching up. And you know, torching at the camera is not a good thing, because as of last count, we're on webcam number 9. Okay, do that. My pickle pot's off to the side here. So question was, will this work for a regular shaped stone? So if you're talking about a round stone as being a regular shape, yes, absolutely. Oh, an irregular shape. Okay, so yes, absolutely. You just have to think about where those prongs are going. That's all. Okay. Make sure everybody's dry. And I'm actually going to flip this over because my texture is on top. Okay, and I want it to be up. Okay. Okay, so well, we have lost contact with Andy. Hold on a second. Let me get him back. I'm gonna put some solder on here, and I'm gonna show you, and then I'm gonna get Andy back here. Okay, Andy. He's lost audio. Don't know why. Okay, hopefully that's better. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting solder along the edges. Remember, you don't have to smear it around like peanut butter is what I always say, right? You just need it in key spots. So about 6 spots should do it. And it should just flow. Okay? I don't know the answer to that question, Pam. So I need to see the turquoise again because I can't remember what you bought. Okay. So I'm centering the holes inside of my piece. Let's see if you guys can see that. Let's see, we'll focus for you. There we go. Okay. So here I'm going to heat from below, and then I'm going to come up. One problem I see a lot out there are people doing this. They're waving it all over the place. You don't need to do that. Just move it around. Make sure you're working right at that blue tip is important. Always keep a tool in hand. Once it gets nice and hot, like there, you can come up to the top, heat it, and go around the edges, just like so. This is a great time to use your rotating soldering station. Let's see, there we go, almost. There it is, if you have one. Okay. This is copper, so I need to give it a minute to set. That's why I don't grab it very quickly, because copper has tendency to hold on to that heat. Okay, there it is. Done. Not pretty, but that's okay. Take out your shears, trim it. If you're working on a disc, remember you're making the ring the same size as your disc to sit on top of the disc, not around the disc, okay? So you want to just sit it on top. So the question is, what kind of fuel can be used regarding soldering? You can use anything. If you have an acetylene torch, use an acetylene torch. If you have a propane torch, you can use that. I'm not familiar with MAP. I do know that it is hotter. So you just got to be careful with some of these torches. They're just a lot hotter than butane, but bottom line is they are actually easier to work with. Okay, I'm going to move the camera one more time so that it is back down. We're going to change out our solder station again and then solder that last part here. So here at this point I have put the piece into the pickle. Okay, so ring shank, same thing. If there's any burrs or anything like that, you want to go ahead and file and sand that and make it nice. Okay, somebody is supposed to be wearing this. Okay, so let's see where our piece is. Make sure you always rinse your piece after it comes out of the pickle in some clean water. Question last week was, do I use baking soda? I don't, because I worry too much about cross-contamination, because you're using the copper tweezers from the pickle into your baking soda water, and you're putting it back in the pickle. Of course you're going to be neutralizing your piece. So you see, can you see that? The holes in there? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to put the prongs in. Cut a piece of wire here. .18 gauge sterling is what you'll be using. Again, I'm just demoing in copper today, and so I'm just going to cut about 1/2 inch pieces, because I know that a 1/2 inch is way more. Let's see, can you see that? Way more than I need. Okay, so 1/2 inch and put it in. Actually, maybe coming from the back might be a little easier. There it is. Okay. And I'm not even going to worry about what's on the other side, because I know that these are only sticking out maybe 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So this is where this pumice is really cool, because you can just push right into it. And I lost a wire. So I lost one of these wires. I'm just going to grab another one, and push it through. Okay, so push that puppy in there. Okay, so can you guys see that? Right? So I have my pieces of wire in there. They're sort of hanging out. They're about maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe less. Okay. And then I'm going to take a little bit of solder. You can put little tiny chips next to each one of these wires if you're using solder chip. So this bowl, let's see, about 4.5 inches. A doggy bowl works too, apparently. Doggy bowls come in steel. This was IKEA. So I'm just putting a little bit of solder at the base of each one of these wires. Okay. Again, I think you can see that. See if it focuses for you. Okay. And then now we're going to solder it. So I'm just going to heat the whole thing. heat it, and then focus on each one of these. Try not to melt any of those wires. Now, at this point, you should be using medium solder. I apologize. So the ring was done with hard, and then you're going to solder it down to the back plate with medium, and then we're going to do medium again. Okay, because we're going to reserve that easy for the shank. So again, the rim was done with hard, and then the rim soldered to the back end, or the back plate, is done with medium, and then these prongs are being soldered again with medium. I'm going to throw that into the pickle, and you'll be able to see it better here in a second. So there are advantages to using pumice and having it on hand. Let's see if I can find that wire I lost earlier. There we are. So if you don't have all three solders, this is when you're going to need it. It's also on the website if you're looking for it. But you do projects like this, you really do need all three solders. Okay, it'll make your life a lot easier. So the question always comes up, well, can I just use one solder? Well, my question is, how good are you? I mean, I have been able to do that for the most part at this point. It took me 4 years before I was able to do that, get my skill level caught up. And oh, look at that, we didn't unplug the phone. Oops. Okay, so drying that off. You can steel brush that. I'm sorry, not steel brush it, brass brush that, just to clean it up a little bit. Okay. We also have these. Okay, so now it's all soldered down, so I'm just going to trim it flush to that back plate. And with silver, it's even nicer because this will all disappear here in a second. See, so now that it's flush, because it's nice and filled with that solder, you can just take out your sandpaper and sand that backside. Just like so. So you're going to sit here and you're going to sand until all these disappear and it looks perfect. Do you have to? No, that's up to you. Then you'll also need to file and sand. If you were cutting the edges like this unusual shape, you can also file and sand the edges until it looks nice and pretty and you're happy. You know, you're going to work it around like so. So there's that, and then once you have all that done, all that nice finishing work done, you're going to solder on the ring shank. You see the prongs, they're on there. And notice I really didn't care about the size because we're going to trim that later. Okay, so we're going to move it down. Again, a nice advantage of the pumice is you can put unusual shapes like this and you can get a level surface out of it, like so. Depending on how you want your prongs to sit on the shank, you might want to take out a marker because, you know, here I have the prongs going up and down into the side and the ring shank like this. But what if you wanted it like so? You could. So how do you know when you're working backwards? Well, before you put this down, you mark it and you tell so that you have guidelines to where you're going to put your ring shank. So this one, I think we're going to go this way. So use your tools. We all have Sharpies. Use them. Okay. So a couple options here as to soldering. You can freehand this. If you've been in my class, you know that's how I like to do it. I'm going to put some solder on. But if you can't freehand it, take out a third hand. Okay, you don't have a third hand, it's time to get one. or stop drinking coffee if your hands are shaky. So I put some solder down. So your third hand will hold it in place for you. Okay, here I'm just going to hold it. So I'm going to heat it first. So your third hand, you just put it on and then solder. But I'm just going to heat it. I'm going to heat my shank also at the same time. Heat everything. Everything. Make sure my aim's good. And then focus until the solder flows. And I like to have my joint at the bottom there so that I don't have to clean it up later. Then it'll be behind everything. There we go. I think it did it. Give it a second to set. And voila. Done. Cool. Quench it. Okay, questions. I know it's a lot in a short amount of time. And yes, I know, I make it look easy. It's pickling. So if you're looking for just in the instructions, we do have instructions for this class. Can you believe it? It is 8. We have done 8. This and all the previous videos that we've done in the past week on the website. And if you want to keep up with the schedule, I think I just posted it yesterday. If not, it's coming up today. I have a whole schedule posted of things that you can look forward to. So this is the Umbra ring, if you're looking for the name. Next week we're doing the molecular kit, or I'm sorry, the totally molecular pendant. That kit is available online right now, and we're going to start shipping it tomorrow so that you have it for next week. Okay, so this is coming out. The heavy duty cutters are called Keiba cutters. So if you're looking for those, that's how it's going to be listed. Okay, do you see that? There's your prongs. That's your... Okay, so I'm going to move the camera one more time. Let's talk about it. I'm just going to recap everything. Okay, hold on. I was asked to show you guys the stones one more time. So let's see if I can get the camera to focus. Is it focusing? Okay, so those are the turquoise, the amethyst, and there's the green ones. Okay. So let's recap what we've done. I've officially lost Andy. Dropped the phone. Anyway, so we have you need to make the ring shank. This is your homework for the weekend, okay? Because we're going to come back to this on Monday and we're going to finish this on Monday. So you're going to make the ring shank. You're going to make the rim. You're going to solder the rim down, and then, you're going to make the rim. You're going to pierce the holes, okay? Then you're going to solder the ring shank down to the back plate, and then you're going to solder the prongs onto the back plate, and then solder the top unit to the ring shank. That's your homework. Make sure that you work all the edges and everything so that it is nice with sandpaper. You want to work with 400, and if you're looking for a high polish, you're going to work your way all the way down to a 600 for polishing. Mostly the stuff that I do, I don't go to high polish because it's not something that I like, so I usually stop at about 500 and just work with sandpaper because I like that matte look. Okay, so the question was, how can you see the solder flow? Again, this is a little bit of experience to be able to see it, but you'll see it look like liquid silver along the edges. So anytime that you're soldering, you'll see the paste solder go from this paste, and then it'll dry up, it'll look like sand, and then it'll flow and look like liquid silver, and that's how you know the solder has flowed. If you're working with, say, chip or wire, you'll actually see it just flow like mercury. So that's how you know it's flowed. If you see a piece of solder sitting there, it's not done. You got to keep going. If you still see grains of sand, you haven't soldered long enough yet. Okay, so any other questions out there? I think that's it. Oh, so Mondays I am officially calling Minimal Metal Mondays, so you can anticipate. So that would be extensions of this book. So if you haven't purchased the book yet, there's a link. So all the projects on Monday can be a little bit easier, but it's always going to be either 16 gauge or 18 gauge wire with 5 or 8 millimeter jump rings. So if you want to be prepared for the next few Mondays, make sure that you have those things on hand. And we're doing toggles, or I'm sorry, clasps this coming Monday. And for Wednesday next week, the request, and I think it's a good request, and I'm going with it, is we're going to do everything soldering. So let's talk about soldering. Different types of solder, different soldering equipment, what's flow, pick soldering, and sweat soldering, you know, all the different aspects of soldering. So you bring your questions for that. And then Friday, again, we're doing totally molecular. Andy? So if you feel that there's any value in what you're seeing, and I've got a lot of positive feedback, I really appreciate it. You know, the best way for you to show that you appreciate what's happening here is if you could do me a favor and just share these posts, I would absolutely appreciate it. And if you would consider contributing to what we're doing, log on to the website and purchase a download. They're only $5. I'm asking a little bit more for these more complex classes. And if you're buying a kit, the download is included in your kit. So, oh, the question is, am I doing a wrap ring like the one I'm wearing? You know what? I haven't thought about it, but maybe. And I'm already ready for, let's see, week 4 is next week. I'm ready for week 4. I'm working on week 5. I have the project already in hand. Just got to figure out how it would work. So maybe it would take at least 3 to 4 weeks if I was to go down this road. So let me see how it works out. A lot of this has to do with availability of material and equipment. You know, my goal initially was to create projects that everyone can do easily and quickly with what you already had because we're all sheltered. Where are we going? I know there's always the internet, but you know, I didn't want to make it stressful for everyone to participate. I wanted everybody to participate with me, so I wanted to do things that I sort of assumed you would have some of these basics. And like I said, I decided after last week that, you know, we want to keep with the basics, but then for all of you guys who've been on this journey with me for, oh Lord, 12 years. Some of you been here for a long time. You're ready to step it up already and you're bored sheltering at home. So I thought it'd be a good idea to step it up with projects like today. So that said, thanks for following along. Thanks for being here. It's Friday. Happy weekend. But for some of us, it's been a weekend for a while, although for me, it does feel like Friday. So I'm going to go out on a hike and I'm going to enjoy this 55-degree weather. It's supposed to be 60 this week. Spring is almost here. We're excited. And thanks. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. Monday, 1 o'clock. Be ready.